Welcome to the Executive Function for All podcast, helping people improve their executive function skills and reach their goals. Brought to you by Untapped Learning. Welcome to today's episode of Executive Function for All. We're thrilled to have Nick Thompson join us for a deep dive into one of the most pressing and misunderstood topics, anxiety. Nick brings a wealth of experience and an innovative perspective, exploring how our biological wiring, creative minds, and modern lifestyles shape our experience of anxiety. In today's episode, we'll cover actionable strategies for managing anxiety in the moment, the fascinating hunter versus farmer theory of ADHD, and why reframing our mindset can unlock new potential. Nick's ability to demystify anxiety, coupled with his insights on relationships, performance, and self-regulation, makes this conversation one that you won't want to miss. Let's dive in. Out of everyone I've talked to about anxiety, I think you are the most interesting person in your takes on anxiety. I've always been fascinated with. So Nick Thompson, thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you for having me.
So I guess from a basic level, anxiety is a word that's just tossed around nonstop and people use it for everything. Tell me about anxiety. Like, how do you think about it? If I come to you and say, I'm really anxious right now, how would you coach me?
Yeah, in that particular example, I'm feeling really anxious right now. One of two ways to go with that. I think the first thing I would say is, how do you know? Are you anxious right now? Can we real play this?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm very anxious because whenever we get in this room and the lights are on,
okay,
you feel this, like, whenever you turn a camera on, there's just like something in your heart, right? That just starts to race a little bit.
Okay, this is good. So your heart is racing.
My heart's racing.
Anything else?
My mouth gets really dry.
Okay, good.
And I start to stumble over my words.
Okay.
Versus if you and I were just throwing the football in the gym.
Okay.
Talking.
All right. So a tightness in the chest, heart rate goes up, dry mouth, and more difficult to speak. Yeah?
Absolutely.
Yeah. So first off, that was a great place to start, because usually when you ask somebody, how do you know they're anxious, they kind of pause and go, that's a ridiculous question. And often what they'll say after you ask another time, no, seriously, how do you know you're anxious? They'll talk about their thoughts. They'll say, well, I'm thinking about the test that I have to take next week. Or I'm worried that we might have to move if I don't get the job I want. Those are your thoughts. That's worry. Worry is different from anxiety. Worry is a component of anxiety. It's kind of the thinking, the cognitive part. But most people, when you ask about anxiety, they won't talk about what's going on in their body. And so that's the first place to start, is what's going on in the body. And the cool thing about the body is every single experience that occurs in the body when you're anxious can be explained. Why this is big is because anxiety is rarely, if ever, the issue. It is your anxiety about your anxiety that is the issue.
Thank you for saying that. And the only reason I could explain my anxiety just now is because I've worked with you for a few years. If you'd asked me that 5 years ago, I would have been like, well, I'm anxious that everyone's looking at me.
Yeah.
Or I'm anxious that I'm going to blow this and then I won't be able to pay my rent and
worry.
On. Yeah. Yes. So, and what you said, the anxiety spiral that I learned from you, what's that all about?
Yeah, and just real quick, that's the same for all emotions. Sadness isn't the issue, it's being sad about being sad. Frustration isn't the issue, being frustrated about being frustrated is the issue. As neuroscientists have shown, the lifespan of an emotion is 90 seconds. That's as long as an emotion can live. If you feel an emotion, anxiety or otherwise, for more than 90 seconds, it is not because of the initial trigger, and it is not because of that initial emotion. It is because of your thoughts. You are keeping that emotion going, amplifying, or evolving with your thoughts. So that's like this beautiful reminder that I try to give myself throughout an average day or average week when the pity party of one has gone on a little too long. Yeah. And maybe I'm in my office just ruminating or something for minutes, 15, 20 minutes. I'll catch myself and go, oh, I'm doing this. I'm keeping this going with my thoughts. So if I can pause, drop down into the sensations that are going on in my body, just feel them, it'll be gone in less than 90 seconds. So to bring it back around to what you said, because I said something about being able to explain it, and that's a big part to demystify this thing around anxiety. Remembering anxiety isn't the issue, it's your anxiety about your anxiety that's the issue. So one of the primary things that you can do with anxiety is explain to the person why they're experiencing those things in the body. Does that make sense? Because it demystifies it. So now you're not like going, why is this happening? You fully understand why it happens. So your heart rate goes up because of this this amygdala, this threat detection, threat activation center that's a part of this limbic system that is trying to get you prepared to survive. It's all about survival. So it's taking in this situation and mistaking discomfort for danger. This is not dangerous, what we're doing right now. It's uncomfortable. So this system is mistaking this situation as a dangerous situation in terms of life and death. So your heart rate's going up. Anybody who experiences a high heart rate when they are anxious, which is one of the most common signs, that's because this system that's a false alarm, is pumping blood and oxygen into your limbs to get you ready to run or to fight. The reason that you get a dry mouth is because this amygdala, again, believes that you're about to die or that your life is in danger. And so it is shutting down the digestive system because it's like, we don't need to be digesting food right now. We need to run for our lives or fight. So the salivary glands are part of the digestive system. That's why people get a dry mouth. That's why I'm getting one right now, talking about getting a dry mouth. If you get butterflies in your stomach, same thing. A pit in your stomach, same thing. And far as the mouth goes, think about it. If you were being chased by a saber-toothed tiger back in the day, you wouldn't really need to be linear with your words, would you? You'd need to be linear with your feet and fast. So the idea of I choke on my words, because for the vast majority of pre-human and human existence, we were hunter-gatherers, and this anxiety thing was an adaptive quality that kept us alive, and now currently it can make us quite miserable. So when you see it through that lens, doesn't it make perfect sense why pronunciation and being linear with your thoughts and words is difficult, and that your heart rate goes up? If you sweat, I sweat when I get anxious, when I get nervous. That's the amygdala going, he's about to go for a long run and people are going to chase him, or he's going to have to fight somebody. So it's making me sweat to cool down my system, the body. In the same way when you work out, you sweat. Great system, right?
I think back to my first high school basketball game that I played varsity for.
Yeah.
There were a couple hundred people in the stands, right?
Yeah.
And my palms were just like couldn't grip the basketball.
Sure.
I feel like someone just shoved sand into my mouth, right? And I couldn't perform the way I wanted to, the way I'd prepared to, because my anxiety was so high.
Got it.
Does that fall into the same category as what you were just talking about?
Yeah. For anxiety to be there, right? Think about, let's walk through this. What are the ingredients to make anxiety occur? Your brain is time traveling into the future, right? What Back to Future is that? Where they went into the future? The second one?
I think it's the first one. No, they go to the past. The second one.
Okay.
So they go to 2010 and there's hoverboards and stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The sweet Nikes that you can buy for $10,000. The pizza that expanded into thing. Yeah. We were promised jetpacks is the name of a band, and it was true. We were promised jetpacks, and we still don't have it. So yeah, your brain's doing a Back to the Future 2. So it's time traveling into the future. Okay, so that's one ingredient. You're not present, fully present, for anxiety to be there. Does that make sense? Even if you're time traveling in the warm-up line, if you're super nervous, you're still time traveling because you're most likely not focused on the layup during the warm-up as you are during the performance of the first varsity game.
And it goes into that spiral like you talked about too. It's like all these people are watching me.
Yes.
So now I'm stuck on being anxious.
Okay. And so that would be everyone's watching me right now in the present moment, then time traveling into the future. What if I don't perform well? Okay. So it's time travel, caring deeply about something in the future, and being uncertain about the outcome. So those things need to be present. So yes. And what people talk about, what research shows is the best intervention, the best thing to do with performance anxiety is to reappraise the anxiety as excitement. So I just walked you just told me what happens in your body when you're anxious. What happens in your body when you're excited?
Your heart races, you sweat a lot. My heart rate goes up a lot.
Yep.
Because it's almost like I'm crawling out of my skin. Like I'm so excited to get to that thing, right?
Do you stumble over your words when you're really excited?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Right? This is one of the most helpful things that you've told me in my life is we've done some talks together, and it is wild to me when you just reframe anxiety for excitement. It completely unlocks a different perspective for what's about ready to occur.
Yeah. And what you just shared with us is true for most people. Anxiety as it shows up in the body and excitement are near mirror images for most people. They'll have the same physiological experience. So you don't need to change what's going on in your body. You just need to change the story that you're telling yourself. That's a wonderful thing. Before a performance, before a speech, before a recital, a test, asking somebody out on a date, whatever it may be, you don't need to stop what's going on in the body. You just change the narrative that you're telling yourself. In the example that you gave, you're feeling these things in your body before the first varsity game, and you're like, everybody's watching me. And then you had to have created a hellacious hypothetical to go to anxiety, which would be like, what if I fail, right? What if I'm terrible? What if I cause our team to lose? So that narrative feeds anxiety. So you notice a narrative and direct it towards something that will have you leaning in towards excitement, which is still the same thing. All these people are watching me. How great is that? That all these people are watching me.
Yeah.
How lucky am I? You know, there's a big thing in sports currently, like pressure is a privilege.
I was just saying, it's such what a gift to have to do something that people care about.
Yeah.
I hear a lot about coping skills. What's the number one coping skill you recommend for anxiety?
You ready? I got like by far the number one. It's not even close. In the history of time, currently and forever, this will be the number one coping skill for anxiety, right? Is this enough buildup? Okay. Feel it. Feel it. We got lucky with this one. The instructions are in the name. It's called a feeling. We're supposed to feel it. If we're just supposed to think about it, it'd be called a thinking. But it's not. It's amazing how many people don't want to feel these things known as feelings. Would you want to know what the number one coping skill for anger is? Feel it. Sadness. Feel it. We choose the ones we want to feel and resist the ones that we don't want to feel. But once you know the biology of an emotion, it takes down, it removes, it diminishes the fear around feeling. Like we talked about earlier, the thing can only last in your body for 90 seconds if you're just feeling it.
And that is, we get stuck so often. It's like, as soon as I feel anxious, I'm grabbing my phone or I'm fiddling with something so I don't have to feel it.
Exactly. You're trying to distract yourself. When a lot of people talk about coping skills, unfortunately, they're talking about distractions, which in a pinch can be helpful. But coping skills in terms of distracting yourself from the feeling is not a sustainable approach to any emotion. It is feeling it. You said what we resist persists, and not only persists, but grows in size. When we talk about anxiety being an epidemic, the main epidemic is that people aren't feeling it when it arrives. Having anxiety about anxiety, resisting it, I don't want to feel this. But anxiety doesn't just go, oh, this person doesn't want to feel this, so it'll just go away forever. It keeps knocking. And if you don't begin to feel anxiety, it's got like a bigger brother, and he doesn't knock on the door. He kicks it in. His name is panic. Anybody who's had panic attacks before, that is often the case, is you have created a very resistant relationship with your anxiety. And it'll eventually go, watch this, I'll break you down.
That is so interesting. And so I'm a concrete person. Let's say I start to feel anxious. I'm in the grocery store. Thought comes, I start to feel anxious. What do I do?
Breath, right? Focus there. Catch it with your breath if you want to regulate it. Like if you really don't want it to build or amplify, if you catch it small, breathe into it. So paced breathing. Two best breaths, in my opinion, is the physiological sigh, which is a breath technique that Huberman's big on, and it's been shown to offload the most amount of carbon dioxide. Carbon dioxide builds up in our blood and stresses us out. So the physiological sigh is a double inhale through the nose with an extended exhale. That's been shown to regulate somebody the best in the moment. Other breath, if you got a little more time, the 4-7-8, Dr. Wheel, W-E-I-L. I don't know if that's how you pronounce that, but he's big on the 4-7-8 breath, which is an inhale for 4, hold for 7, and exhale forcibly out of the mouth, making a whooshing noise for a count of 8. You want to put your tongue behind your 2 front teeth. It's called a yogic position. And 4 rounds of that has been shown to really lower levels of anxiety. So those are the 2 breaths, 4-7-8 physiological sigh. In general, when it comes to breaths, anytime you emphasize or elongate the exhale, you will calm down. That activates the parasympathetic nervous system, which is our rest and digest part of our system. So again, anytime you emphasize or elongate the exhale, that will calm you down. Kind of think about it like an exhale, don't you kind of picture down, breathing down?
Yeah.
So just a way to remember it. Opposite, if you want to wake up, if you're tired, if you're fatigued and you need to be more alert and pay attention, if you emphasize or elongate the inhale up, you will wake up.
The more that I've learned about this, we learn about whether it's before a test, whether it's before you're going to ask someone on a date, whether it's before a big game, sporting event, whatever. They say optimal performance is in if on a scale of 1 to 10 is in the 6 to 8 range.
Okay.
Right? Depending on what you do.
Yeah.
And so I remember in the Olympics, you could see people right before the race. You can see them breathe in and breathing out really slow because they're at a 10 right now.
Yeah.
And so it's fascinating to watch this now in real life where you can see people who are on top of their game. They're really focusing on this breath thing.
Yeah. And I want to give more than just the breath, because for me, when I'm highly anxious, like if I didn't catch it when it's small, oftentimes focusing on my breath makes me more anxious. I'll be like trying to do a paced breath and I'll be like, oh, this isn't working, which makes me more anxious about being anxious. Yeah. So the two other ways are using your perception, interospection and exterospection, which are fancy terms. But what they are is interospection is perceiving or feeling the sensations at the skin or within.
Okay.
So if you could feel in the supermarket, if you can stand there and feel your feet on the ground, like scrunch your toes and notice the sensation of your toes. Can you feel a tingle in your toes? Or clap your hands together 3 times and grab the shopping cart and see if you can feel the tingling or the heat in your hands. That's interospection. Exterospection is sensing, using one of the 5 senses to perceive the world around you. So if you were to stop in the supermarket, right, touch, tactile, you could just feel the handle on the cart. Or you could stare at the jar of olives and bring all your attention to staring at the jar of olives. Or close your eyes and just listen to the fan above you or to the kid laughing in the background. All 3 of those things, the breath, interospection, and exterospection, will calm your anxiety because you're not existing in between your ears when that occurs. You are being present. All 3 of those things bring you into the present.
Because the whole goal is just to get you back to the
here
and not to the future of my whole world's melting down because I did the wrong thing in the grocery store.
The here and now. Yeah. There's very little, like, think about your life. 99.9999% of the time, in the present moment, there's nothing to be fearful about. It is when we time travel, this second, this moment, right now, there's nothing to be anxious about. Now I can time travel 30 minutes from now when I'm heading home. Can I find uncertainty there? Yeah, I could die in a fiery wreck on 287 heading home. But that's not going on right now. And so it's when the mind travels into the future that it finds uncertainty, and uncertainty equals fear. And we're talking about a flavor of fear known as anxiety.
Why are we built like that?
Because it used to be a survival, an adaptive quality. It kept people alive. We are all descendants of super anxious people. People who weren't anxious, people who weren't able to time travel into the future and think about, hey, you know what? What if we have a really bad winter and we might not have enough food? The super chilled out Cali bro who's sitting in the cave, not an anxious guy, right? Was going like, I think it's going to be a mild winter, bruh. I think we'll be good. He's dead. He is not your ancestor. Our ancestors woke up in the middle of the night and were like, baby, I don't think we have enough food.
And they survived because of it.
They survived because of it. But now, for the most part, right, we don't face life and death situations on a daily basis. But we still have this brain that has evolved to problem solve. And that's what worry is. It's a maladapted form of problem solving. I believe the quote is, who's it by? Dan Zadra, worry is a misuse of the imagination. And you work with a lot of young people here who are quite creative. Oftentimes ADHD, people with ADHD are highly anxious, people are highly creative. Well, if you can create a super cool, interesting, nuanced, beautiful story in your head, you can also create scary, hellacious hypotheticals about your own future and the loved ones in your life, their future as well. So being able to go, I have this creative mind and I know when I'm going to use it and it's useful and I'm enjoying this process, versus going, oh, this creative mind is going in a direction that isn't going to go well. It's going to find uncertainty and therefore it's going to find anxiety.
Well, that takes so much self-assessment, which I know you and I work on a lot, is like, how do you recognize this coming? And so when you take this very creative mind and you mix that with us trying to fit into the typical education system, which doesn't fit us, and you get negative feedback and you mix it with this creativity, things can go awry, right? I saw somewhere some like 60 to 80% of adults with ADHD have clinically high levels of anxiety.
Wow.
Like you're mixing all this stuff together, and if you don't have that self-assessment, that self-understanding to cut off that pattern, it can get messy.
Yeah.
I'm really interested too, because you introduced me to the hunter-farmer theory.
Yeah.
About school is made for farmers.
Absolutely.
People who've watched us for more than 30 seconds know how severe our ADHD can be,
Yeah.
right? We're hunters. Can you talk me through that theory and what that is?
Yeah, I think it was initially by Thomas Hartman, came up with the hunter-farmer theory, but in general, the idea is, and I might screw a little bit of this up, but the idea is that maybe ADHD isn't so much a disorder, but a biological leftover from our ancestors. Again, it wasn't until 12,000 years ago that agriculture was invented. So the vast majority of our history were hunter-gatherers. So maybe people with ADHD it's this biological, leftover that we have from when we're living in hunter-gatherer societies. So in these societies, and they still exist today, and you can see it in the current hunter-gatherer tribes, there are hunters and there are farmers. So think about it. What does it take to make a good hunter, to be a good hunter? Okay? Well, you have to have the ability to be distracted. High distractibility is a gift for a hunter. So going back to these hunter-gatherer tribes, the hunter would have been the one who heard the rustle in the bushes. The hunter was the one who heard the twig break. This is a gift for hunters. What else? What else do hunters have? We have a time horizon of seconds and minutes. And yes, I'm a hunter. Not meaning that I, shoot pheasants in October, but that I have this wiring. Time horizon of seconds and minutes, meaning we're very in the moment. Which again, would be an advantage when you're a hunter, when you need to lock in. We're able to hyper-focus on things for hours, hour after hour, be locked in if we're fully engaged with it, not needing to go to the bathroom or eat. Think about what an advantage that would be on the hunt when you're tracking an animal. We like novelty. We like periods of high intensity and then chilling out. Think about what it takes to be a good farmer. Well, basically the exact opposite. Farmer needs to be able to do the same thing day in, day out. Take direction. Have a time horizon of months and years. So yes, K through 12 is built for farmers. I get a kick out of it when I go into schools and I'm in a classroom and I look at the rows. And I just picture rows in a field of a farmer. And I like to imagine, just for fun, way back in the day, if some tribe decided, let's have a hunter shadow a farmer for the day, like a hunter kid, to just see what the farmer kid does during the day. And I just like imagining that hunter kid showing up 20 minutes late, getting a bag of seeds and just slapping it on his knee or whatever and bouncing around and like, what are we getting into today? And the farmer being like, well, we're going to take these seeds and we're going to push them into the ground. And the hunter being like, all right, can we do cool designs? Can I do a cool, can I draw a picture? And the farmer being like, no, straight rows. And then the hunter being like, okay, but what are we going to do after? And the hunter going, how long are we going to do this for? And the farmer going, oh, until the sun goes down, we'll be planting these seeds. And the hunter goes, will we see them grow by the end of the day? Farmer goes, no, if we're lucky with some good precipitation, we'll see something next spring. And the hunter dropping his seeds and chasing a squirrel.
This is how school was described to me. I remember growing up, it's what is the point of this? And they're like, okay, if you do this assignment, you're missing an assignment. But if you do this assignment, you'll get a letter. And if you accumulate enough letters over time, you'll get a final letter in this class. Mm-hmm. And then if you get letters for 7 class in 4 years, maybe you can go get more letters. I'm like,
what are we talking about?
It didn't even land.
It's wild.
It didn't even land to me.
When a teacher, when an educator, even a parent looks at an 8th grader who's like, I hate school. And they're like, this will really matter in 4 years. And if they're talking to a hunter, a kid with ADHD, he doesn't understand 4 weeks, let alone 4 years. So we have to shift the conversation and talk about what can they get out of it in the moment. Now, this doesn't mean that us hunters, that it's just hey, you don't need to learn the farming game because you're a hunter. No, we live in a society where as hunters, we have to get okay at farming. We will never be gifted at farming. You know it, I know it. You will never be a great farmer. I will never be a great farmer. I will never be the best when it comes to prioritizing, organizing, sustaining effort, working memory, regulating my mood, or regulating my behavior. I'll never be the best at it, but I need to be decent at it so I don't end up in jail or scare tactic or so that I can keep a job.
Well, and here's how I think this is. Society needs both. Hunters push society along.
They're innovators.
We're innovators. We're creative. We push society along. Society needs that.
Yep.
But we also need farmers.
Oh, boy, do we.
I don't want my accountant to be like, I found this new innovative way to do taxes. You'll never believe it. No, right?
Yeah.
And so we need both. And people, we miss that in our education system. And having ADHD, we start to internalize there's something wrong with us. But we're hunters. We're creative. We think different.
Yep. Like we talked about before, every industry, every career is looking for hunters who can kind of farm. They're looking for their creativity, their intensity, their hyper-focus, the way they connect the dots. They need that. And we need farmers, definitely. I'm not downplaying the need of farmers. There was this really cool study where they followed the valedictorians of high schools. And what they saw was these valedictorians went out in the world, got jobs that they enjoyed, jobs that they were good at. But for the most part, and in this situation, it might have been like all of them, the people that they followed, had jobs where they were supporting systems. Hunters, people with ADHD, oftentimes change systems or create them. And I think you would agree, we're at a time in history where this generation of hunters, unfortunately, not their fault, are kind of being tasked with some big things. Maybe saving the world.
Yep.
Just maybe saving the world. We're going to need their creativity, their innovation, their intensity.
I agree completely. And when we're talking to young people, because often they'll see that valedictorian study, or they'll see like, there was some study like the average millionaire had like a 2.8 GPA in high school or something. And they'll use that as an excuse to say like, oh, I have a GPA, I'm going to be a millionaire. Versus saying, okay, I'm a hunter, so that way we don't beat ourselves up. But I also need to implement systems into my life so I can farm okay, like you said. It's not an excuse. It's not a cop-out. We still need to farm okay.
Yeah. As you say, you got to discipline your gift.
Absolutely. And you got to build in accountability. The most successful people have the most help, and we miss that.
Yep. I like the AAA of action. When it comes to getting difficult things done, 3 main options. Make it appealing, make yourself accountable, or make it automatic. You won't convince me to make email appealing. Returning emails is not appealing to me. So I have to make it automatic or make myself accountable for doing it. Automatic, AKA make it a habit, right? Mm-hmm. Repeat it enough so that you don't have to use willpower to do the thing. This is the conversation about homework with young people. You don't like it? That's the main way, by the way. If you can convince yourself that you enjoy the content, that's the best way to do it. Look at it like exercise. Why do people exercise? The people who love it, they figured it out. But there are a lot of people who exercise on a consistent basis who don't enjoy doing it. What do? Accountability, or they make it automatic. They make it a habit. They join a fitness class. They have a fitness trainer. They have a workout buddy. That's the accountability piece. Automatic. They set the gym bag by the door. They go at the same time every day. It's a repetition. So the brain just goes, oh, I guess we're going to the gym.
This is just what we do.
This is what we do. Yeah.
You already walked me through when I'm in the grocery store and I get anxious. I don't know why I get anxious in the grocery store, but I weirdly do. I don't know why it is.
Yeah.
Maybe it's the flashing lights and all these announcements. I don't know why that
Overhead
happens.
lighting.
Oh my gosh, like get
confusion.
me out of this place.
Yeah.
But
probably those rows again.
Dude,
you're not a farmer.
They need to let some squirrels loose in the grocery store.
Yeah, they do.
In the local Kroger, and I can go find one. But you gave some great in the moment strategies, the research-based ones. What about big picture strategies for anxiety?
Big picture, one of my favorite acronyms is SCORE, and that stands for sleep. The C is for consumption, the O is for outdoors, R is for relationships, and E is for exercise. When somebody that I'm working with, or in my own life, when I'm noticing that anxiety is quite present and calling a lot of the shots in my life and feeling like it's difficult to manage, we start with sleep. How am I sleeping? Sleep is the foundation of mental health, physical health, and performance. So I always start with that. Then C, consumption. Within that C is, am I eating healthy? What's my screen time like? Is that super low? And you also address if somebody's abusing substances in that, you'll address that in the C of consumption. O is outdoors. Am I getting outside enough? I think something like 42% of Americans are vitamin D deficient. Vitamin D plays a huge role when it comes to mood and other things. So am I getting outside, especially getting early morning sunshine and some late evening sunshine called low solar angle sunlight is super important for mood, performance. Our relationships, am I spending time, enough time, with good and supportive people in person? Whether you're an introvert or extrovert, the number one predictor of mental health, physical health, longevity, and happiness, supportive relationships. Supportive, meaningful relationships. Relationships. And finally, E, exercise. Yeah, and big picture, that R is so important. I noticed there was a turn not too long ago where I began to have a different relationship with my anxiety when I began to take myself less seriously. In a way, to get over your troubles, you need to get over yourself. Not for all people, but a piece of anxiety is believing that you're very, very, very important. And therefore your problems and your issues are very, very important. Big picture with anxiety, anything that will remind you that it's not all about you is super helpful. And what made me think of that is relationships. Being around other people, being of service, helping other people is so dang helpful. It's tough to be anxious when you're caring for another. So yeah, that made me think of connection with other people. Again, there are things that make you present. I remember being in my office at the high school I used to work at, and there was a girl in my office who was in there because she was having a panic attack. And then there was a knock at my door, and I opened the door, and it was another student who said they were about to have a panic attack. And I had an idea. I blurted out, I go, to the girl who was about to have a panic attack outside my door, I go, actually, can you come on in? And before you have your panic attack, could you help out this other student who is currently having a panic attack? Guess what happened to the girl who is going to be the support for the person having the panic attack?
Guess that panic attack never came.
Went away. When we're in service of other people, what are the things that make us present? People, pets, nature, being outside. So big picture stuff like kind of head in the clouds, master class, move, anything that reminds you that it's not all about you.
Nick, thank you so much, man.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining us on the Executive Function for All podcast. If today's episode brought you any value, please rate us 5 stars and share it with someone who may benefit. And remember, every small step you take builds towards your success. For resources and guidance, visit untappedlearning.com. Keep growing, keep learning, and we'll see you next time.